We on Fire Sports Podcast, The Spot, season number 4, episode number 14. Man, we at midweek, man. Nice off the weekend across the sporting landscape. First of all, if it's your first time listening, I appreciate your ear. If you're an OG to the show, I appreciate all the love and the feedback. And, man, we moseying it on along, man. We got the college football playoff. The rankings jumped off. Top 12 teams in position to get to the college football playoff. Colorado has been hot as a firecracker, man. Deion Sanders has done a great job down in Boulder as they come into the week number 17th ranked. And obviously, as we get knee deep in the college football season, these rankings are huge. These matchups coming up the next couple of weeks is going to be huge. And Oregon comes in still number 1 in the top spot. They 10-0. They've had an outstanding season in the inaugural year in the Big Ten. And there's been some controversy, man. There's been some controversy, just a little bit. Obviously, when these rankings come out and you got 12 teams as we've been expanding, there's always going to be a little gripe about, who should be in and who should be not in, rather. And so it doesn't matter if they had 24 teams, man. There'll be somebody arguing. There should be a few teams in. And, I just think it's an interesting thing. It's new to the scene of college football. And, I'm definitely excited. Shout out to Indiana, man. They've come in ranked number 5, man. And they've had an outstanding season in the Big Ten. A lot of people say the Big Ten has been weak this year. Michigan's not had a good season, obviously bouncing back to try to come back from the national championship. With Jim Harbaugh skipping town up in Ann Arbor out to the NFL in Los Angeles. And, just interesting things, man. We had, Miami lose last week. They ranked number 9 right now. You had Georgia get knocked off by Ole Miss, man. It looks like they're hanging by a thread to try to get into the college football playoff. And also, we had the National Football League. We just completed week number 10 in the NFL. And, there's been some teams that pretty much nail in the coffin, man. The season is just about over. That's been the theme of the last, say, 2 weeks or so. Just teams kind of purging themselves out of the way, and cream rises to the top, as they say. As some of the teams are trying to jockey for playoff position in the NFL across the board. And we had the NBA, man. The NBA, we're nice and tuned now, 3rd weekend of the NBA season and the talk of the year so far. And I've definitely been impressed by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Presently, they're 13-0, man, living their best life. Knocked off the Bulls the other day. Just making big time moves, man. Cleveland on a warpath, man. It looks like, just the situation between Garland and also, too, can't forget about Spider Mitchell, having a great season. Big time play across the board from them as far as their front court. Probably got the best front court duo as far as traditional front court in the league, Jaron Allen and Evan Mobley. And can't forget about the job that Kenny Atkinson has done up there in Cleveland. He's done an outstanding job with this ball club, taking over for J.B. Bickerstaff. And it looks like Cleveland, turning the page. We'll see if they'll be able to sustain, but they've definitely been a talk of the league so far as the last undefeated team in the league. We also had return of the Splash Brothers, man. Going back home, it definitely was an emotional moment with Klay Thompson returning back to Golden State for the first time since leaving. And it's been a lot of athletes over the last couple of years jump ship and move teams, but definitely, when I saw just the salute that they gave to Klay Thompson, man, it definitely was an emotional moment. I mean, this man is one of the greatest shooters ever, 4-time world champion for the Golden State Warriors, and so it just was kind of a surreal feeling, man. Just a surreal feeling, man, out there in Frisco, man, just to see him come back and return to the Golden State Warriors. And we also had some injury news across the NBA. Chet Holmgren looks like he's going to be out about almost 2 months for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a team that, is top of the Western Conference presently, and looks like they was poised to make a good season and also to a potential deep playoff run. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, could have easily won the MVP award last year for the Thunder. And I think this is going to be a big-time injury. They're already kind of soft to me in the middle. And I think they'll be exposed, man, with him being out. So we'll see. We'll see if they're able to kind of pick up the pieces, man, and try to play some ball with Chet being out. Also, we had the situation up in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Bucks, man. 3-8 so far on the season. Looks like it's the curse of Doc Rivers, man. This has been a ball club that they've made a lot of changes over the last couple of years. It just seemed like it was eons ago that Coach Bud Budenholzer won a world championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's just been a revolving door ever since then. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there, man. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is a diva. I just think that at the end of the day, he's crossed over. Want to make moves, bringing in Dame Lillard. And it's hard, at the end of the day, especially when you bring in a coach midway through the season last year for the Milwaukee Bucks. They never hit a stride with Doc Rivers. Looks like this team, still early in the season. So I'm not going to put dirt on them about, not being able to make the playoffs or anything. But they have not came out and played some good basketball so far this season. It's been very inconsistent and it's been very frustrating so far. Milwaukee and another team that's in the same boat of that. And that's the Philadelphia 76ers. We got, to me, another player that's a diva. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I think Joel Embiid, he's a diva, man. At the end of the day, Philadelphia is a great sports town. We've had Dr. J, we've had Allen Iverson, we had, Rocky Balboa. And so, Philadelphia people are about hard work, man. And, you leaving blood, sweat, and tears out there on the court. And Joel, he played hurt last season in the playoffs. I don't want to take that from him. But when I see you playing in the Olympics and then, we get into the season, it's just we on just straight high maintenance mode. I mean, you brought Paul George over there for a reason, man. I just think that at the end of the day, Nick Nurse has got a whole situation going on. Obviously, we got Tyrese Maxey being out. Not sure when he'll be back. Looks like it'll be several weeks before he's back into the fold. And so Philadelphia, man, they've been on struggle bus mode. So far they 2-9 on the season. And even though it's a long NBA season, man, when you're already behind the 8-ball coming out very slow and you got your star player saying he's not going to play back-to-backs, you put yourself in a deep hole, Philadelphia. And not only is it a situation for Nick Nurse, but the front office of the Philadelphia 76ers seems like this team just cannot, get in the right direction, man. It just seems like something's always happening. Also, too, I don't know if I want to put the Knicks in the fold, but the Knicks under 500 right now. 5-6 on the year. Those high hopes bringing in Karl Anthony Towns and, had Tom Thibodeau and Jalen Brunson. New York had a great season last year. Bringing back OG Anunoby, broke him off with a big bag of money. And so, I just think that this team, at the end of the day, when your point guard is the best player on the team and Karl Anthony Towns, this is a guy that's not a traditional big man. Tibbs is a defensive guy, man. This team lacks defense so far. We'll see what New York is able to do to pick up the pieces in that regard. And so, man, it's just been exciting. We got the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight coming up on Friday, man. Can't wait for that. Definitely going to check back in before that jump off. Then, can't forget, man. Don't forget to check us out, man, on YouTube at We On 5 Sports. Cracking over there. Also, too, on Twitter. And coming up, we're going to get into the National Football League as week number 10 has concluded, as we're looking forward into week number 7. Week number 11. We On 5 Sports Podcast. Spot. Welcome back, and we're going to get into the National Football League as week number 10 has concluded, and we're seeing the separation. We're seeing the separation between the teams that a lot of people expected to be, kind of at the top of their respective conferences. I think that for me overall, I'll just go ahead and just put it out there. And my prediction was the San Francisco 49ers get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl this year. But, they've been a team that, they haven't came out the gates, lapping everybody so far. It's been, a nice little trek for them so far this season with injuries and so forth. But overall, There's been a couple surprises out there. You got the Washington Commanders that definitely surprised a few people out there. With Jaden Daniels playing some outstanding football. And, across the whole slate, like I said, we got a lot of teams in the NFL that got 2 wins. What I call, to me, death week. Meaning that this was the week that you can finally put the nail in the coffin of those respective teams. And we transition now into a good bevy of teams that's trying to jockey for the last couple spots, and teams trying to get home field advantage through the NFC and AFC respectively. But we'll get right into it, man. We had the Thursday night game. It seemed like it was eons ago, and it probably was the best game of the whole week. The Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And boy, was this a game. I mean, the first matchup between these two teams was a shootout, about a month or so ago. And in this game, man, it was just, it was just going to come down to the end. I just think that Baltimore, getting off the mat, putting up 21 points in the fourth quarter, those are the type of performances that a team that I predicted them to actually get to the Super Bowl, by the way. I think that this is one of those type of performances, especially a division team, a team in the Cincinnati Bengals who started off slow once again this year. They finally been able to kick it into gear, but they fell up just short, 35-34 for Baltimore. I mean, Joe Burrow, man, I just felt bad for Joe Burrow. I mean, he had another outstanding game, man, 4 touchdowns, 428 yards passing. I mean, he's living his best life right now, man, at the quarterback position. It's just the Cincinnati Bengals, they just don't have a defense. They don't have a defense, and, they can't hold water, man, and especially a team like Baltimore who kicked it in gear in the fourth quarter. Derrick Henry, had a pedestrian game. I thought Cincinnati, even though their defense is hot garbage, they did a good job on the rushing attack from the Baltimore Ravens, held them in check. But, Lamar Jackson, making plays with his legs, throwing the ball down the field. It was just an outstanding performance for him overall. I thought that the defense for them was obviously leaky. You got to mention Jamar Chase. I mean, that was one of the best performances I've ever seen from a wide receiver in the history of this league. 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. But once again with the Bengals, we seen this when they played the Chiefs at the beginning of the year, is that they can compete with the upper echelon teams. It's just they can't finish the job. And this could be a situation where, the seat to me is getting definitely hot for Zach Taylor. I think that at the end of the day, you got some talent in Cincinnati. You can't waste it. Obviously they'll figure out a situation to get Jamar Chase paid probably this summer. So for me, they're a good football team, man. They just had some bad luck as they fall to 4-6 on the year. The Baltimore Ravens improved to 7-3 on the year, 4-1 at home, as they're trying to position themselves, man, for this nice little run, for them to establish potentially a number 1 seed in the AFC. I know they 3 games back of Kansas City, but definitely for them, that's still kind of in play a little bit. We'll see what the Baltimore Ravens do moving forward. Then we had a game, man, that between two teams that looks like their season pretty much is over. And we had the New York Giants take on the Carolina Panthers. It actually wasn't a bad football game, as this game went into overtime. The Panthers was able to win 20-17. Daniel Jones being Daniel Jones, 2 interceptions on the day. Chuba Hubbard, man, he put the team on his back. 153 yards on the ground, a touchdown also, 2 in that game. Bryce Young was able to, do what a lot of people expected for him in Charlotte, man, to be able to drive the Panthers into a win. That's 2 wins in a row for that young man, definitely getting his confidence back up. And like I said, both these teams, they headed to the top of the NFL draft next season. We'll definitely, see what they do moving forward as far as them checking out some of the young players on their ball club, seeing, if they're able to carry them over into next season. But pretty much, this game was played out in Germany. The fans out in Germany was able to at least get some NFL football, man. But both these teams are headed nowhere. Then we got a game that, oh, man. Yeah, man, my blood is boiling over, man. It's just boiling over. As we had the New England Patriots come into Soldier Field and knock off the Chicago Bears 19-3. This is a game to where, and I saw it early. In this football game. It's just been the same script for the Chicago Bears on the offensive side. They just come out in the first quarter and just forget they playing a football game. I mean, this offense is just straight inept. We're going to go ahead and keep it real, because we keep it real on here, man. We keep it 100. Straight talk, no chaser. This team has been hot garbage. And, it's a litany of things just with this situation. Obviously, we mentioned Shane Waldron being let go from the offensive play duties for the Chicago Bears. Thought it was definitely the right move for the Bears. At the end of the day, man, you got to let somebody else rock it at this point, man. I mean, the offense has just been straight hot garbage. Caleb Williams is responsible for that a little bit. I definitely don't want to let him off the hook. He hadn't been playing good football, but I think that at the end of the day, once I heard earlier in the year that Shane Waldron did script his first 15 plays with a rookie quarterback, I mean, this guy don't need to be employed as an offensive coordinator. I mean, that's just, point blank. I do give the New England Patriots some credit as far as on the defensive end. Gerard Mayo had his team ready to play. He called his team, soft a couple weeks ago. And, they had a, grimy performance. But, it's just been the talk in Chicago, man. And, I'm going to go ahead and, express this as well. I think Matt Eberflus should have followed Shane Waldron straight out the door. I mean, the heat that's coming up from Chicago right now is just a situation of where the whole fan base, me included, is absolutely frustrated. I think that, a lot of people, praise Ryan Poles. We had the hard knock situation for my Bears, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's been a long time coming for my team to be forefront. But, I think at the end of the day, you had this whole King Poles thing. But I think the most crucial, important trait from a general manager in the National Football League is that you got to make one, tough decisions. Number two, you can't be afraid to bring another smart person into the room, a person with experience. And I think that's what the Chicago Bears is lacking from a leadership standpoint. Eberflus is a dead man walking, man. We'll see if the Bears be able to pick up the pieces after this loss. And it looks like it's going to be the third loss in a row for my Chicago Bears as we fall to 4-5 on the year. The Patriots improved to 3-7 on the year. Break my Bears winning streak too at home, man. And, definitely got to give a shout out, like I said, to the New England Patriots. They came to play some football this week. So we'll see what both these teams do moving forward. Then we travel to the Buffalo Bills taking on the Indianapolis Colts. As the Bills, they've been a hot football team, and they've been a sneaky hot football team, by the way. Last few weeks, it's Josh Allen, keeps the cape on, man. And at the end of the day for him, they won this game 30-20 as the Buffalo Bills improved to 8-2 on the year. And Josh Allen, man, he didn't, he put on the cape, but, he had a couple interceptions in this game. One that was a little bit janky for me. I think that at the end of the day, the Indianapolis Colts, they came in as a dark horse team to make the playoffs. I was watching them closely in this game just to see how they would react, definitely to a top-tier AFC team. Jonathan Taylor had a $114 on the ground. I thought they tried to keep it balanced, but Joe Flacco, man, 4 turnovers. Looks like the old man Joe Flacco definitely showed back up in this football game. And like I said, the Bills put themselves a little bit closer to winning that AFC East as they knock off the Indianapolis Colts once again, 30-20, as the Colts fall to 4-6 on the year. Then we had a game, man, and I know people across the country, I was checking this game out, definitely at the end on Red Zone over the weekend. We had the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. And the Chiefs, man, they just got, they got 9 lives, man. I mean, this is a football club that, definitely was on the ropes again. We've seen this team not play the best football as we've seen from them over the last couple of years. And they came in this football game. It was kind of the same script. As the Broncos looked like they was poised to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, had an opportunity to take the lead late in the football game, basically for game. And the Chiefs was able to block the field goal attempt, man, and stifle the Broncos as they won 16-14. This team obviously 9-0 on the year. As I mentioned, man, they undefeated at home. They've always been a tough team to beat in their building. But once again, man, they get off the mat. Patrick Mahomes, had an okay football game, 266 yards in the air and a touchdown. I just think that for me, I definitely give my hats off to Sean Payton. His team came motivated to play. And the Broncos, I've been critical too. I've been critical of Sean Payton. I thought he lost his fastball, man, once he left the New Orleans Saints. He was out of football for a couple of years. But I think he does have the pulse of this football team, and they came to play. But, just was a situation with the Kansas City Chiefs, man. You got to kill them, man. You got to make the plays at the end of the game. And teams so far this year have been short, whether it's been the Baltimore Ravens, when they matched up. And just a tough situation, man. Just tough overall, for the Broncos, man. But you live for another day. They fall to 5-5 on the year. And like I said, the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, they have been playing their best football. Obviously, the power balance is on the defensive side of the ball. Hopkins is a huge addition for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that their offense is definitely going to progressively get a little bit better than what we've seen so far this year, man. But you can't be mad at undefeated, man. You can't complain at that, man. Definitely got to survive and advance out here in the National Football League. Then we had the Atlanta Falcons take on the New Orleans Saints down in New Orleans. As this is a big time rivalry matchup between the NFC South, rivalry game with these two. And this was a good football game. It was kind of an ugly football game, for the Falcons. Their offense really didn't kick into gear into the second half. I think that the Saints, they offense, the air got let out of the balloon, but they did what they had to do to win this football game, 20-17. They got off the 7-game skid. Obviously they fired Dennis Allen, shortly about a week or so ago. So they had the interim coach come in. Did a good job, man. Darren Rizzi, put some respect on his name. Won his first NFL game as a coach. I think, obviously this is a rivalry game. I think that a lot of people believe that the NFC South is for the Atlanta Falcons to lose. As they obviously lost this matchup as they dropped to 6-4 in the year. For them, it's actually their first road loss of the year. So the Falcons, they've been riding a little high. But I've been watching them, man, because these are the type of games when you want to make a run, especially through the playoffs. These are the type of games that you got to win, man, on the road within your division. That recipe hadn't changed. Falcons come up short in this one. Definitely the Saints, they on their way to the top of the NFL draft. Derek Carr, he played a spirited football game. And like I said, for the Falcons, it's just a letdown for them, man. We'll see if they'll be able to pick up the pieces next week. Then we had the San Francisco 49ers, the Niners taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As this was a game, to me, this was huge for the San Francisco 49ers. They came in this game 4-4 in the year, 500 so far in the year, man. Christian McCaffrey, welcome back to the fold. He's been out all season long, and that's just been kind of the whole mode, the whole swag, for the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, Ayuk has been out, he's out for the year. You've had injury to Deebo Samuel. He's kind of back into the fold now. And so, definitely for this 49ers team, I thought that this game, I wouldn't say make or break their season, but this was a game that they had to win. They was able to pull this one out 23-20 as Moody, the kicker, was able to kick a field goal to win this game. It actually was a good football game. Baker Mayfield, man, he's, speaking of injuries, they've been the walking wounded down in Tampa, man, on the offensive side of the football, but I like what I've been seeing from Baker Mayfield, man. This guy, it's been tough as nails. A lot of people obviously had the situation with Cleveland and him having 800 commercials on television. That didn't work out, and him moving to Carolina and then the Rams. A lot of people thought it was over for Baker Mayfield, man. But I think he's made a home down in Tampa. For them, they fall to 4-6 on the year, man. They chasing the Atlanta Falcons in the division. This was a huge loss for the Buccaneers, man, and might be getting late early for Tampa, man, as far as their playoff hopes is concerned. As Brock Purdy, like I said, played outstanding in this football game, too. I think this has been the best game of the year for Brock Purdy, 353 yards in the air and 2 touchdowns. So I'm liking what I'm seeing as far as the offense. Obviously, he had C-Mac back. Didn't really have the best of games for C-Mac, but, he's finally, getting back into the fold, man. So, arrows pointing up, for the San Francisco 49ers moving forward. Then we had the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Washington Commanders, man. And this was a game that, to me, it was a game that was in my top 3 games I wanted to see this weekend. Because, Russell Wilson living his best life right now, man, after getting the job back. Never really lost the job, was out due to injury early in the season. Mike Tomlin made that OG move, bringing him back into the starting lineup and the starting fold for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they've been a different football club. They had the threat of getting the ball downfield, which I think is huge in their offense because they like to play ball control offense. Obviously, that they defense, which I think is one of the top 5 defenses in the National Football League, definitely could be top by the end of the year. You got to let your offense balance it out and put your defense out there on the field, and you have a veteran guy, Super Bowl winner that's able to make some big time plays, and that's what we saw from Russell Wilson. I think, talk about the season for the Washington Commanders was Jaden Daniels. And I can't be mad at Washington, meaning that, they obviously had Brian Robinson Jr. He was out in this game. He was a scratch before the game. And so they was a little bit on the walking wounded side, just a little bit as well. Obviously, since we've had the injury to Jaden Daniels, he's not been able to move out of the pocket. as much as we've seen earlier in the season. And I think that, Steelers a little bit, as we got kind of through this game a little bit, you can definitely see that Daniels definitely wasn't a willing runner. And I think Pittsburgh was able to take advantage of that, man. And like I said, they was able to win a gritty game. They improved to 7-2 on the season, 4-1 on the road for the Steelers. And the Commanders, they dropped to 7-3. It's their first home loss of the year for the Washington Commanders. But it looks like the Commanders, man, is the best team in the NFC East outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't wait for them to lock horns, again. So we'll see what the Washington Commanders do and the Pittsburgh Steelers do moving forward. We transition to the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I obviously had Trevor Lawrence, who hadn't been playing his best football. He was a scratch in this game with a shoulder injury. And it might be shoulder surgery. I think that at the end of the day, Jacksonville paid this guy a big bag of money. It might be in their best interest to go ahead and shut down Trevor Lawrence for the rest of the year. This has been a bad year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that Doug Peterson, he might be on his way out of the door as well. The Vikings didn't play their best football in this game, but was able to win this one 12-7. The Vikings improved to 7-2 on the year, 3-1 on the road so far for them. Like I said, Sam Darnold, man, looks like that glass slipper. That glass slipper, man. He was on the redemption tour earlier this year. Looks like that tour, man, is not as profitable as it's been the last couple of weeks for him. Had 3 interceptions in his football game. I think that at the end of the day, the Vikings, you're in the toughest division in the National Football League. These are games you got to win, especially on the road, man. You just got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. So I was impressed by the Vikings from that note, but I think that this was definitely a dud game. I think their stock is kind of going a little down a little bit in Minnesota, but you can't be mad at 7-2, man, so far this season. Then we had the Tennessee Titans take on the Los Angeles Chargers. This game was played out in SoFi Stadium. Chargers was able to win this football game 27-17. We had Will Levis returning him back into the starting lineup for the Tennessee Titans. Didn't really matter, man, as Jim Harbaugh out there in Los Angeles. He has his team playing his type of football, running the ball and allowing Justin Herbert to do Justin Herbert things. Outstanding talent. A lot of people thought he was a guy that would, be a 5,000-yard, passing type of guy. Maybe we'll get that one day. I'm not sure with Jim Harbaugh, man. The offense he's running is just balanced. I've been impressed by the Chargers defense the last couple of weeks, too. They've been playing some good football on the defensive end. They improved to 6-3 on the year. The Titans fall to 2-7 on the year. And like I said, I think the Chargers, man, they're moving closer to putting themselves in a position to get into them AFC playoffs this year, man, in Harbaugh's first season, man. Be on the lookout, man, for them, man, coming up. Then we had the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East divisional matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. And Dallas Cowboys, man, theoretically their season is over. Dak Prescott just had surgery on the hamstring. He's effectively out for the season. So it's over for the Cowboys so far. And we got basically not even the Thanksgiving and their season is over. They got DDT by the Philadelphia Eagles 34-6. Jalen Hurts still playing solid football, 202 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground for him. Saquon Barkley being Saquon Barkley. He only had 86 yards, but hell, a lot of running backs will take 86 yards on a day, but he had 14 carries. I just think that at the end of the day, Philadelphia Eagles, they were a better football club coming in, and they showed it on the field. A.J. Brown with a $109 on the air front. Definitely had a big catch towards the latter part of that game, man, just showing his athletic ability and him being able to bounce back, from like just the nagging injuries he's had so far this year. And the Eagles, they improved to 7-2 on the year. And like I said, man, them in Washington looks like they're the best 2 teams in the NFC East. And it definitely was shown in this football game. Then we go down to Arizona. Glendale, Arizona, home of the Arizona Cardinals, as the Cardinals took on the New York Jets. Cardinals was able to win this game 31-6. And as I mentioned a little earlier, man, this has been the week of teams that you can pretty much put a stake in them, and the New York Jets is one of those football clubs. This team just on offense, and Aaron Rodgers, just an old quarterback, man. And I said it once again, you can't keep going back to the well with these older guys that's 40 plus. There's only one dude that's been able to do that, and that's Tom Brady. I mean, the man has, Super Bowl rings on both hands, man. So at the end of the day, Tom Brady was an anomaly. I think that the Jets was trying to piggyback off the whole Tampa situation. Aaron Rodgers is just not an effective leader like that. I think that injury last year, we saw the last of what we call great Aaron Rodgers. And, at the end of the day for them, the season is over because once it traveled over to the defensive end front for the New York Jets, that's when you can stick a fork in the New York Jets. Shout out to the Cardinals, man. They've been playing some good football the last couple of weeks as Kyler Murray improved. The Cardinals are 6-4. I believe that's 4 games in a row. He's playing some good football. I've been shaky on Kyler Murray and very critical. I think this guy's been inconsistent. But the last, 3 to 4 weeks, he's been more on the consistent side. Arizona, definitely nice little threat out here. They definitely, DDT my Bears, earlier this year. Well, just recently. And so this is a team that's building a little momentum, man, out there in Arizona, man. We'll see what it do for them moving forward. Then we had the Sunday night football game between the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans down in H-Town. Love the uniforms by the Texans, by the way. I thought that red with the helmet, that joint was hard, man. I definitely got to give a shout out to the fashion folks down there in Houston. But the Lions, man, winning this game 26-23 definitely was one of the most exciting games of the weekend slate, as the Lions was able to get that momentum going late in the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter. And, the Texans just couldn't hold water on the defensive end. They played great defensive football through the first half of this game, only holding the Lions to 7 points at halftime. They was up, 23-7. Didn't score another point in the second half. Is C.J. Stroud, man. I'm not sure what happened in the second half for you, bro, but, definitely the Lions, played good football. And shout out to Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. This guy with Hutchinson being out for the season, definitely still playing with that intensity. Obviously, can't forget about Dan Campbell. This team is very, very focused. They look like they're the best team in the NFC, being 8-1 so far this year. And I think the most impressive thing for the Detroit Lions is that they undefeated on the road, man. And that's simply what it's all about in this league, man. You got to win divisional games on the road, and you got to win those cross-division games against teams that are going to be potentially playoff teams, man. So good job in that. Jared Goff, man, definitely can't let you off the slate. I mean, you definitely tried to get a football game away to the Houston Texans with 4 interceptions. He tried to bounce that out with 2 touchdowns. I mean, they made the plays when they needed to make them for the Detroit Lions. St. Brown, I think they need to get him involved a little bit more as he kicked in the gear a little bit late in the second half. And as I mentioned, the Texans, they fall to 6-4. The Lions improved to 8-1 on the year. And it looks like the Lions, man, might be the best team in the NFC so far this year. Then we get to the final game of the slate in week number 10. We had the Miami Dolphins take on the Los Angeles Rams out in SoFi Stadium. And the Miami Dolphins was able to win this football game 23-15. The Dolphins was definitely a team that was on the mat, and I was about to stick a fork in them. They was able to salvage, what I think might be their season. We'll see what they do moving forward. I mean, they 3-6, so it still could be very, very shaky for them. But definitely was a huge win on the road for them, as the Rams, they fall to 4-5 on the year. Matt Stafford, they definitely had him in a situation where he couldn't get no offense rolling. And this team, they tried to kick it into gear in the fourth quarter. I think by the end, the Dolphins had the momentum. Tyreek Hill had a touchdown reception in this football game. And so, I think that for the Rams, Sean McVay, man, he's never going to let his team let go of the rope. But they fall to 4-5 on the year. We'll definitely see what both these ball clubs do moving forward as we're getting a little closer to the holiday season. And definitely appreciate you guys checking in. Appreciate all the love and the feedback. I appreciate you. Yeah. We on Fire Sports Podcast Spot.